All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. This is Suzanne and co-host Kim. We are
Hello.
another episode of Energy Unleashed. Sorry, I talked over you. Hello.
Oh, no, hello.
You are up at the cabin, miss. Look at your decor.
Yeah, I like you said, it looks like I have antlers
Yep,
with a
that's
fish.
okay. Actually, we're moving through the chakras and we're on the third eye. So this is like putting a lot of attention right to that spot on your head. So it's perfect decor, right?
There you go.
All right, so we have been moving through the chakra system about every other video that we've been putting out about every other week, right, Kim? That we've been
Yep.
putting like a chakra one and then something else.
Mhm.
Getting to the end, we're coming up to number 6, which is the brow chakra or the third eye chakra, either or. The color is indigo, so I'm kind of navy. I don't know what you are. This is as close as I got.
Yeah, it's kind of purplish, bluish. It's in between.
Yep, indigo
Yeah.
color is that purpley bluey, really cool dark midnight color, which is awesome. And so we're going to get into all of the specifics, but I was telling Kim before we started, this is a tough one, I think. I mean, I use this one extensively, but I think it's a harder one to explain.
Mhm.
So this chakra is all about light.
Mhm.
And I think in our world, we already are prejudiced against dark, right? We're scared of the dark. We're
Mhm.
fearful of the dark. Darkness equates fear and evil and la la la. And that is just kind of so silly because dark is light and light is dark when we really get into energy work and we really start to understand that even the mother god frequency of light is dark, right?
Mhm.
And so it is only through the light and the darkness that we see our polarities and we deal with our polarities. But this is also the chakra where we're starting to do a lot of transcendence. So before I get into a whole lot of that stuff, I want to start with the imbalances and the influences. So this third eye chakra is located right here in the middle of the forehead, but we're going to get into where it actually is in a second because it's actually inside the brain in the pineal gland.
Mhm.
And so it influences our coordination, our clarity on an intuitive level, our intuition, our sense of trust. This starts to move up into our enlightenment areas. This is very psychic center for most people. However, I always say in all my classes that all the chakras are psychic centers, right? They really truly are. But this seems to be the one where everyone's like, oh, yeah, the psychic centers, the third eye. It imbalances in a negative way. It can give you headaches, migraines, brain tumors, strokes, poor eyesight, blindness, seizures, learning disabilities, sleep disorders, deafness or hearing impairments, colds, sinus problems, mental illness, discipline, judgment, concept of reality, confusion and pride, arrogance, suspicion, emotional intelligence. So it seems the higher we're going up, the bigger the
The more
struggle.
intense whatever you have, it is like,
It's like,
no.
what, right? I mean, this is
Yeah.
like a lot. So, like we said, this is all about the concept of light. And so it is about seeing, it's about intuiting. I love the gland is the pineal gland. Do you say pineal or how do you say it?
I say pineal.
You do, because
Yeah.
a lot of people don't say pineal, they say pineal.
Pineal.
I think it is technically pineal is the way that I
Because
think medically.
doesn't it look like the symbol for it look like a pine cone?
Mhm,
That's what I
mhm.
always think of when I think of the
Yeah.
pine.
And I think this is one of the coolest, like lotus flowers. We haven't been showing the lotus flowers. People can look those up if they choose to anywhere. But this lotus flower, the graphic of this third eye or the brow is really cool because it just has two petals and the thing in the middle. So it literally looks like an eyeball.
Oh,
So
yeah, it does.
it's the most fun one that actually looks like what it's supposed to be, right? I think that's really super cool. And I love that color indigo. And people don't really talk about indigo. They talk about indigo children all the time, but they don't really talk about the color indigo so much. And this one, I'm going to say also, by the way, in some modalities, some teachings, some books, etc., this one can actually be purple
Mhm.
and this one can be white. Whereas right now we're going to go indigo and purple. So that's
Mhm.
also just kind of a little tweak on it. So a lot of people will think that this is actually the purple one and this is the white one, but we're going to go indigo purple. Okay.
Okay.
So the seed sound for this one is Om. So I think it's now we're getting into like kind of like that really zen-y feeling because now we've got the Om and we've
And
got the I. So I think that that's pretty cool. The gemstones for me for this one, I love, you love it. You wore it last time, remember? You even had it on for the throat chakra. Do you
Yeah,
remember what you had
I've
on?
got it on my rose quartz's lapis
Yeah,
there,
lapis
and I've got
lazuli.
amethyst in right now.
Nice. You're
Yeah,
rocking it.
yeah.
Lapis lazuli is really good. I think that for me, I put tiger's eye on the third eye a lot of times.
Mm,
I just play with it because I think that that's kind of a cool way to open up the third eye. I oftentimes will put clear quartz on it and selenite on it. I
mm,
put a lot of different stones on it. I don't necessarily always just follow the so-called rules of all of this stuff,
yeah.
but I think that the third eye is definitely something that, oh, you know what? I wonder, nah, I can't do that. I was going to say, I wonder if I could switch screens, but I'm not going to bother that. Again, it has the lotus petal of just two of them. It represents the manifest and the unmanifest. So what's so cool is remember when we got to the throat chakra, we're transcending duality, and now we're working in that manifest, unmanifest. So we still have some dualism that we're talking about,
Yeah.
but we are still moving above and beyond that and bringing the polarization together. When I work on a person, I look at their eyeballs when I scan them, and oftentimes people's eyeballs, not that they're literal eyeballs, but
Yeah.
the energy of their eyeballs are going wonk when their third eye is off, or like that. And I equate it to headlights on a car. And you know, when you're on a car and you have your headlights and eventually they kind of come together way out in the distance,
Yeah.
sort of, you know, that's how I watch a person's third eye when I scan them. And
Oh,
a lot of times when they're down in the dirt, like the headlights are down, that means people don't want to be seen. They don't want to open that third eye. They don't want to be seen and heard and stand out. And a lot of people go "Wah," like this. And sometimes when I bring in the third eye, I look for the actual eyeball to manifest, to come forward. And it can sometimes look like the actual lotus flower because it does indeed look like an eye, right?
yeah.
But oftentimes I'll get an actual eyeball. And sometimes it's really cool because the eyeball will be super wicked, like old, like, oh my God,
Yeah.
it's an old eye. So that usually tells me that there's wisdom in that person versus like that really young little eyeball.
Right. Well, it's interesting because I actually, when I meditate, sometimes there is like an ancient eyeball that I
Yeah.
see. And but the colors goes between kind of indigo and more towards a purple when that starts
Mhm.
to happen. So I think I'm going up, more into the crown at that point when it goes more
I think a lot of
magenta.
them are mushing together,
Mhm.
anyway, right now. Like we said, our physical plane is kind of collapsing and mushing and overlapping and interpenetrating one another. So I think
Mhm.
a lot of people are getting purples in everything, to tell you the truth.
Yeah. Right.
Really, I think that the purples are coming in everywhere. Before we go really super far in, just because maybe somebody jumped into this one and hadn't heard the other five before, I'm going to just do a really brief description. So when we're talking about the chakra system, they build on one another. And it's really important, in my opinion, as a practitioner, to see that people just don't all of a sudden go, oh, I'm going to work with my chakras and I'm going to open up my third eye right away. Well, that means that you're going to be like, having tons of energy coming in with no grounding,
It's
right?
not going to feel good. No.
Yeah.
Mm.
Were you in Peru with us the year that we had Paula?
I don't think so. What was that? What is
She
that?
had her third eye opened at one of the ceremonies, and she was not grounded enough, and she walked out and she looked like she was drunk. And I mean, it was like this. She was just swirling around like this, and I snapped her up and I'm like, girl, you sit down. I need to put you in your body and in the ground, because this is a danger for people that think that, oh, this is just enlightenment and this is where I want to go. So really heed this advice if you choose, which I hope you do. Work on those foundational chakras too, because you can't handle sometimes the powerful cosmic energies that are coming in that third eye and crown without having a good foundation. It's
Right.
super important, right?
Yeah. No, it makes a huge difference. Like I was in the middle of writing a prayer the other day and realized I was more up here.
Yeah,
And so, and I started to get actually physically not feel good
right.
when I was going through that. And finally I dawned on me, hey, you need to go ground a little bit because, ground into the, I was floating too much. Like it was
Yeah,
too out there.
yeah. So let's go backwards. Chakra 1 is your root chakra. This vibrates in the color red. It is located in basically the perineum area. It attaches down through the actual base of the body, and the minor chakras are in the hands and the feet. So there's 5 points to that root chakra. So that is the level of material objects. It's a very separate, distinct, singular, non-changing. This is all about me. This is about safe, sense of security. And it's supposed to be about the connection to the planet, okay? Chakra 2 resonates at an orange. Every time we're going up, they're going a little quicker and faster. The colors will change because of the resonance of the light. Chakra 2 starts to look at how these things move, how that singularity starts to move and creates forces to act upon, meaning I have a relationship with this, now this happens. And so it moves into the relationships and the emotions feeling, and the sexual organs and sensuality and creativity. Number 3 is our solar plexus, located in high up in the rib cage area. This resonates at a yellow. This is the mental field. The first was physical, second emotional. Now we're in mental. So the mental field is reorganization that is starting to move from number 2. So number 2 is starting to move and act, and now we start to take care of it and start to create will and movement and ownership of our energy. This is our power center. This is our co-creation center. And number 4, that comprises the physical plane. Number 4 is the bridge. This is the open ether bridge that brings us to eventually the spiritual plane. 4 is harmony and eccentrics, expansion, love with no connections attached, no conditions, I should say, attached. This is green. It sometimes shows pink for some people. This is the ethers. This is the absolutely like where we can pick up a whole lot of stuff in that dimensional plane. This is where we meditate. This is where we dream. This is where we float out of body. So this is a biggie. Go back and listen to that one for sure. And chakra 5, we just covered last week, and that is communication, creativity. That's the throat, and it resonates at a lighter blue, which is more like a turquoise blue, etc. And we went through all the imbalances like we will be doing here, and the poses and the rocks and etc. So this brings us to the Om. Yeah. Do you ever do that?
It vibrates your whole body when you do that. When you do that sound, it's really cool.
Do you do a lot of toning?
No, we talked about this last time. It's one of the things I'm working on again. Like I kind of dropped off away from it for a while, but it makes a huge difference in meditating and like getting that calm.
Because that's in the throat chakra as well. So the throat chakra is where we move those mantras through, but now we're moving to the eye of the eye is the Om. And so it is really an awesome one that stimulates and vibrates your whole face, your ears, your jaw. So all of you that are clenchers, all of you that are grinders, this moves between these 2 chakras. So it can open up a lot of that by doing toning. Did I tell you that I usually do it in the car?
Yeah, you did.
And it's good because it keeps you awake,
Right.
People think you're kind of weird when you're driving along, but that's okay. Okay, so this third eye does not have a thing. We don't have an eyeball right here, right? I mean, it is like everything else. This is a center of movement, and it floats right in between our 2 eyes. It's kind of like right smack in the middle of the forehead, though. This is the center of seeing. So this is what it's all about. This is the seeing. Now, we talk sometimes about our Sushumna. And our Sushumna is because we have the right-hand side of our body, which carries male energy. Left-hand side carries female, no matter what sex we are. The Sushumna moves through, and it braids all of our chakras together so that we have harmony and balance. And the Sushumna kind of enters like it's like the download of a kundalini. So it comes in through the crown and the third eye, and it starts to move all the way down. And then it can also move all the way back. So this is about the dancing with not only side to side, but dancing with up and down. So it really kind of is the weave pattern. I think we talked about it. Kind of reminds me of those ribbon candies that we used to eat that your gross aunt would bring to Christmas,
No. And then somebody decided to make glass ones that they sit in a dish. Who does that?
Yeah, what is that, right?
What is that?
I loved when you were a kid, though. You'd lick them and then you hated it, so you'd stick it back in the dish.
Yeah. Oh, gross.
That's so bad. Okay, so we are beginning now to see beyond the polarity of this or that, the either or, the yin or the yang. We are starting really in this powerful spiritual plane to go forward, and not having polarity, duality quite the same. We are accepting things differently.
Mhm.
And this is a mental chakra. So the 5 previous chakras were really more physical, like attached to organs and things like that. But this one is actually in the middle of the organ. It's in the middle of the brain. So
Right.
the pineal gland is very small. And like you said, oftentimes it looks like a acorn. No, not an acorn, a
Pine
pine
cone.
cone.
Yeah.
Pine cone. And it is like right smack in the middle of the head. And it's funny because, well, this isn't really funny, but when I have some head scans done,
Yeah.
in the past, because I've had some head things happen to me and I've had to have MRIs, my pineal gland is just completely like with little what they call them lesions. I call them sparkles. And I'm like, oh, look at all those sparkles. And the doctor got really mad at me because that's when he said that those are bad. And I'm like, those aren't bad. That's my pineal gland.
Oh my gosh. Of course your pineal gland is not like everybody else's.
It's like all full of little sparkles. And from one MRI to the next 4 years in between, it was like triple the amount of little sparkles. And he was really concerned because he was telling me I had MS. And I'm like, dude, no, that's my third eye. I'm killing my third eye. So, really sad.
Oh my
Don't
God.
listen to those,
No, they don't
those
know.
labels.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So this light is directly perceived by consciousness. This is not light that we see. This is not light that, like, oh, I have a light in the room. It's not even, oh, there's light outside from the sun.
Mm.
This is like an ultraviolet light, like what we do in our radiation, our radio waves, our X-rays, our MRIs, our microwaves, all of those things that are really going out into bigger waves. That's the kind of light we're talking about here. Okay.
So is it really based on more like the frequency?
I think so, because when we're up here, we're really, really about light, resonance, frequency. For me, this starts to get to the geometrics. This is for me. And then the stuff that I read to prepare for this, it doesn't talk about geometrics so much, but I know I work in those, and we'll get to that in a little later on here. But yes, it's the resonance and the frequency, which then eventually turns into what we just did, which is the color and the sound.
Okay.
On the throat. So we're going upwards. So the variations in light frequencies give us the different colors in our chakras, period. Light travels the fastest of all of the elements. So this is the quickest in terms of these. And this is light also, these two. Okay. These kind of merge together for me a lot, to tell you the truth. I mean, even when I work on people, I open this and this at the same time, because you kind of have to, right? So the extreme speed of light distorts and transcends our very sense of time. And we're going to get into time on this because it's where time comes from. So we have to remember, light is a form of energy. Particles are considered massless, but light can still induce energy in the form of electric current. It's the electricity. This is the current.
Because that's electricity's up, right? Electricity.
Yeah, you talk for a second. I'm going to grab something. Say something brilliant. I'm going to be gone for 2 seconds.
Say something brilliant.
Yeah,
wow.
Come on.
That's a challenge. No, when you talk about the cosmos, like when you said it's electric goes up, earth below the heart goes down, and that's magnetic.
Correct.
So we're dealing with
this is our counterpart. It's our electromagneticness. And so this is why lately we're getting our butts kicked as human beings, because the cosmos itself is changing astrologically. Our sun is flaring. We're having, we're having all kinds of coronal mass injections, is what they call them, CMEs. Coronal mass injection. Everything has to have an acronym. First it was a UFO, now it's a UAP. Coronal mass injection. It's a sun flare. So, these are all taking that light and putting them in different distortions, like it's saying. And so now we still are in the color realm. So this is color and sound, and this is color and light. Okay. So we're light, color and light, color and light goes to light and sound. So we're starting to get, these are all kind of overlapping at this point. All right.
You know what it reminds me of? What that feels like is like the aurora borealis, the colors, the swirls, that happen. And right now there's a lot of that activity up north of us. Like
Oh yeah, you're talking about the like the Northern Lights.
Yeah, Northern Lights.
Yeah.
It's that swirling, like electrical, light. That's what it
My
reminds
sister
me
in
of.
Alaska is getting unbelievable photos of them this year. It is.
Oh,
It's like it's like you're inside of the lava lamp, right?
it is very like Norway. A lot are coming out of Norway, Iceland, that area that are just insanely beautiful with more colors than I've ever seen. It's
And
really,
it is like an electric sky. It is. It's beautiful, right?
yeah.
And the colors can assist us in opening our chakras. We can wear the colors like
Mhm,
we're doing. We
mhm.
can wear the colors like you're doing, right? They can complement or shift the aura. They can change our aura. We can bring colors in. I remember working with some other kind of practitioners once, and they're really into color, and they're a tag team. They do a Zoom call like this, and she will spew to him, bring in blah blah, and he'll bring in a different color,
I
and
know
you
who
can
you're talking about. Yeah.
yeah, and you can
Really
feel
cool.
it. It's really crazy cool, and they have some really nutty colors, and they don't always match like the chakras. So don't always think you have to match, right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So this is all about seeing. And I think that that's really important for us to talk about. This is where I live and work in the realm of telepathy.
Mhm.
I see it's a psychicness that we're going to get into in a second. It's the clairvoyance, which is clair, heightened sense of
Mhm.
voyance, viewing. Okay. And this is something that is really a strong I think psychic skill that can go either inside of you and or outside of you or both, meaning I can see inside of my head and know something, so I see it in
Mhm.
here, and I can also see it out here psychically, right?
Right.
So hey, I was going to ask you, you don't see it inside your head though, right? What was that
No,
called?
no, very rarely. Like I periodically will see sacred geometry kind of things.
But you
Um,
see color,
I see color all the time. And
right?
that's really where I sit is with colors. Dreaming, I will see visual type things. Um, and sometimes they're like a movie, like a slow rolling movie, which is kind of interesting. But in general, like when somebody's saying, look at the red apple, you visualize the red apple. I'm like, no,
Yep.
I got
And what
nothing.
is that called again? We said it on the other one, but I can't remember.
Oh, I don't remember.
The condition, what that's called? I
Yeah,
mean, it doesn't mean you're broken. Your brain just doesn't process it the same.
right, right. Yeah. I don't
Yeah, it's a thing. Yeah, maybe you
Mhm.
can peek at it when I'm going to talk hologram for a minute. Maybe you can look that up on Siri, because I would like people to know that they're not broken if they can't see that, I mean, because I've done training and classes and psychic training classes, and people that can't see because they just don't have their brain works that way. I wonder if it's a pineal tweak. I'm wondering about that. I'm not sure. But anyway,
I don't know.
while you're looking, I'm gonna move into, this is the holographic theory. This is based on that we are a hologram too. This is when we start to understand in the micro macro, meaning we're little tiny versions of the big hologram of creational reality. And so our little chakra systems in our body is exactly the same as the chakras of all creational reality and light that creates universes, galaxies, planets, blah, 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 and eventually us. So this is meaning that everything, a hologram, we all know what that means. One piece has the all has all the pieces, right? I mean, it's like such a cool theory. And this is the chakra that moves us into the hologram. This is the chakra that takes us from density, polarity in our physical plane up through that bridge, getting to, oh, we're transcending in the throat. And now it's like, boom, now we're in hologram.
Mhm.
So this is when we start to work with our mind differently. This is why telepathy is a mind thing. And we're going into the brain, but we're not using the brain as an organ. We're using it as the mind. And there isn't a place in my brain that's the mind. The mind is created through the consciousness energy of this light. So this is when we start to see maybe auras better, and we start to see colors, and we start to see all these in visualizations, etc. Does that
I
make sense?
think you have to do that one more time on this is where we see, like before you said it's the mind versus like your logical thinking brain.
Yep.
Right. So
Yep.
do that
So
again.
the mind isn't an organ, right? The
Right.
mind is a consciousness that we utilize the organ that has the pineal inside of the organ. So we're using those, but this is where we start to be able to have the not the logical, that's not fair. I guess the mind is getting more open to things that aren't here. Okay.
Yes.
We're in the
They're not
lower
tangible.
yeah, when we're in the lower chakras, it's like, oh, I see, touch, and feel it. Oh, I can touch that thing. Oh, now my mind is being able to transcend all this stuff, and I'm being able to go to things that I can't see because they're not here. But then I can train myself to actually see them. Once I open that third eye, I possibly now I'm seeing auras. Now I'm seeing the chakra colors. Now I'm seeing density. Now I'm seeing wave patterns, etc. So the mind becomes more transcendent in this one. Does that make sense better?
That makes, yeah, that was good that you went back on that, because
yeah,
when you went right through that, I can imagine a lot of people.
So many people going
right away. I think I made that look like, yeah.
That's why your face, I love it. I watch your face, and it's like when you do this, I gotta go back and unleash a little more. That's why we do this. So the consciousness allows the light energy to move and shift, and now it's moving and shifting via our intention.
Yes.
So this is where we're starting to manifest. We're bringing light in, we're putting light together, we're building it, we're making things, and it's all via intention. So this is when we want to start being really aware of the law of attraction and what our little monkey mind might be doing that's more programmed and running overboard, because this is when we want the intentional mind. This is when we start to use words like mindfulness, right? I mean, because this is when we want to be aware of our mind, right?
Yes, absolutely. That it's such an interesting transition, because like for me, I was in the business that I was in, I was project management, business analyst, everything's logical, everything's in the logical mind. And the hamster wheel just never stops. Like, even at home, my mind still worked in that kind of manner where it just goes.
And think of it, you're using your brain more and you're using your eyes more. This is using your mind more and your third eye more.
Yes.
Do you see it switches?
It does. Yeah.
It's really cool. This is a beautiful, by the way, these chakras now are amazing to me. Not chakras, sorry, the templates of the chakra. This is template of the auric field is just like, so just all the colors that run through the heart chakra and the second chakra, but now it's like these beautiful spiky, kind of like the aurora borealis, like you said, it just kind of goes out and just goes, you know, it's a gorgeous, gorgeous template field. It's very, very pretty, and it glows like a candle. This is when people go, oh my God, you're glowing, you know?
Yeah.
And by the way, we can even glow in our death process. When we are releasing this chakra, this is when the room glows and the people glow.
I tell you, like the experience that I had with my great aunt, she was serious. She magenta in so many different shades of, it was fantastic.
Isn't it amazing to think that you're going to glow when you're dying? I think that that's so cool.
Oh, it's so much better than what we were probably brought up to think was going to happen. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
You got to look for it though. So again, going back to seeing, this is the, I want to read this one quote. All that we see are our visualizations. We see not with the eye, but with the soul. And I think that that's really cool, because we perceive that everything in our reality is real because it's coming through our eyeballs. And I think that that's hysterical, because almost everything that's coming through our eyeballs is going directly to our brain as a program. And we're picking up all kinds of whatever, and we're distorting it. And it's just kind of amazing. 90% of our information is coming through our eyes.
Yeah, but when you think about that, your soul, like you're creating your reality, right?
Yeah.
So it should be coming soul out.
And it should be taking it from here, right? I mean, all the way up. It should include all of this, but we don't do that. We take all the information in, right? And we take direct perception is like present time. Like, I'm perceiving, I'm seeing this, I'm experiencing this. This is right here, right? And then my eyeballs can see differently. I can have memory. Memory is past time. So what we're going to start to see now is seeing in light and color and distortion creates time. Even though time isn't a thing, we create it in this chakra, okay? So again, direct perception, present time. I'm seeing that man walk across the room towards me, okay? Memory, past time. Memory is seeing me when I was 5, running around at the lake, right? I mean, these are the ways that our seeing changes. Imagination is all over the place. I can pull from anything and everything, right? Imagination isn't even real, but it is, because we create something from it. So all of this seeing effort creates time and sequences. And then dreams are very much like, it would be kind of like imagination also, but we can pull in everything. We can pull in the past. We can have things in our dreams from our future. We can have them from, the present. We can do everything in the dreamscape. And then precog is really interesting, because this is part of these chakras also, precognition. I'm seeing things before they even happen, right?
Yeah.
I had a client the other.
Can we go back to imagination for a second?
Yeah.
I think that, I think people, well, I don't know how to say this, less and less have been using their imagination because of the programming and all the things, right? It's just like you talked about creativity. When you start to take away the programs where you are using music and art and all of those things, they encourage imagination. So if you're looking at, you're going through the chakras and now you want to work on, what are some ways that you can get your imagination going more? Like
these are the things that are in the actual book. And I gotta do glasses because I just got out of a session and I can't see anything after I work. So actually, I'm glad you had me pull the book. Let's do this really quickly and then we'll jump right into your question. Okay. Signs of an underactive third eye. I usually say this at the beginning. Signs of an underactive third eye are not being able to meditate or quiet your mind or self-reflect, fearful of the unknown, lack of concentration, lack of intuition, unable to see past illusions, disconnected from disillusioned with the universe. And when it's too active, overactive, we're judgmental, we're overly analytical, we're floaty, we're out of our body, we have mental fog, mentally overwhelmed, excessive daydreaming, lack of clarity in thoughts, spiritually self-absorbed. Okay, so how do we balance that third eye? It's going into knowing that we are basically connecting with the place where we're creating. And this brings you back to your question about imagination. We are creating in this chakra. We're taking that light and we're putting the building blocks together, which we'll talk about in a second, of geometries. We're putting the building blocks together to take light and bring it into a vibrational frequency of sound and color and geometrics and math that then becomes down the chakra system real in our third dimension, right? So creativeness, this is why coloring, mandalas, adult coloring books went through the roof a couple years ago to color mandalas. I think it went bonkers during COVID, by the way. This is really, really awesome stuff to be able to, childlike play, puzzles, things like that. It's really important for us to do anything where we're doing sequences like Tai Chi, for example, or yoga posing, so that we're doing both sides and bringing it together, right? So there's a lot of those kinds of things that we can move into, but imagination in and of itself is childlike behavior. It even behooves me sometimes to go and watch something silly like Lord of the Rings. I fast forward the orc part because I hate all the killing, but I go to those movies to see the enchantment, to see all of the wonder stuff, to see all of the sparkles and the fairies and the things that we could see when we open that third eye.
Yeah. Right.
Okay.
Right.
That's what's a really good movie for that? Maleficent. Because when Maleficent, remember Angelina Jolie did Maleficent? And not only should she kill that part, oh my God, she was perfect, right? But all of those little fairy things that were in the, they're in like the mushrooms and the trees. And it's a really great movie to kind of get connected to that stuff. So puzzles, looking with, you can do mandalas and YouTube things that have sacred geometry too, but just please check with your body and make sure that it feels like you're doing something, because God only knows what's in that, because it can be really programmed as well. Color itself, meditating and breathwork, geometry, anything that's moving and changing. Sky watching is perfect for this one.
I love sky watching. That's one of my favorites.
Why don't you tell them how you do that? What do you even do?
For sky watching?
Yeah.
Gosh, I park my rear end on the ground or in a chair, and the cool thing is, like, especially if you're somewhere where it's more dark, like the Milky Way, shooting stars, all of those things. But I also have goggles where you can go to another level or depth of looking at stars and looking for anything moving that maybe doesn't seem, like
normal.
real.
But we've seen some cool stuff, you and I, in those goggles.
Very cool stuff.
Right?
Yeah. Especially unidentified types things that not satellites. You can definitely tell a satellite,
Because
but
of the trajectory.
unidentified, whether it's government or something else, who knows? But they're definitely there.
Yeah.
That's
so
really
the starry skies are really good. The actual clouds are awesome for this chakra as well. The way that the clouds transition and change, and how you can find things in the clouds. Those are all really good imagination things for this area in your head. And remember, we're thinking that it's our eyes that are seeing everything, but it's really our mind. We're starting to use the mind differently when we're at this one. And this is why it's important to keep your mind open to other possibilities, and then think, did that really have a different trajectory, or am I just going to go, oh, that's a plane,
Yeah, especially for me, like looking at auras, or looking at when we do some of the exercises with some of your classes, eyes closed for me is much more successful than eyes open.
Okay, explain that, because that's a really good thing to add in.
Yeah, like if you're looking at me right now and you wanted to see what my aura looks like, I would have to do that with my eyes closed. I don't see it as well with my eyes open, but when my eyes are closed, I can see, what is around a person in their aura, and even go out farther and see different colors.
When you start, Kim, does it start white around the person? When you do it
usually
that way with your
white
eyes
or
closed?
yellowish. Yeah, goldish white or goldish, either one. It depends on the person. Like with you, it's pretty white, but then it turned, like, you play with this though, so you change your colors.
I change it for fun. Mine is really normally pretty white and gold, but everybody's changes all the time, and that's what's really cool. So again, use your soft eyes, so you're looking at something, through something, around something, with really soft eyes. And play with glasses too, because you sometimes take your glasses on and off.
I do, because sometimes the glasses, I can look through the reader part of it, and it makes my eyes soft because I can't quite focus. And sometimes that's like, especially energy, you can see energy just in the air, the little sparks of energy. When your eyes are soft like that. The what?
They look like little baby sperms.
Little sperms, I know.
They do, because they're little white things that just go.
And definitely play with open, closed, soft eyes, all of it, because you see differently, and your perception of what you're seeing changes totally when you're doing that.
And interestingly, you're saying that because our perception, this is the chakra where we start to change our perception about everything. This is the chakra where we're really starting to get evolved and opening up to the unknown and the everything. This is also understanding that we think we're looking at a computer or something on my desk, but you're also seeing everything that you're not seeing. You're seeing the things in between. And with color too, you're seeing, it's so weird because you think you're seeing red, but you're really seeing everything but red. You know what I mean? You know how that does that?
Right.
That's such a cool thing. And when we were in Peru one time, I'll never forget, we were at this really cool booth of dye, and it was all of the big, beautiful bowls of colors of dye. It looked like sand. And it was funny because our guide, Ronnie, thought he was going to be fancy and trick us, because everyone would normally think the purple comes out purple, you're right, that the green comes out green. And he's like, so what color do you think this is? And if you looked at it with your psychic eye, you could see what color it turned into.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Because just because it's purple in the bowl doesn't mean it's purple when it comes out. It means it's red. Do you know what I mean?
When they use it. Yeah, as a dye, when they use it, it changes.
Yeah, so that's kind of how our eyes work with our mind, because our mind is seeing something different, because that's what generates the colors. So it's really interesting.
Remind me, the one book that I think was really helpful, and I still pull it out periodically, is that Magic Eye book.
Yep, I just bought another one at the church sale the other day, because I buy them whenever I can, because I think that they're great. Those are the ones where you practice and you pull it out, and then the picture pops, you know? So again, this is similar to when I was doing eye therapy for the mercury poisoning stuff. They had to do divergent and convergent.
Mm-hmm.
So it's called convergent and divergent, meaning can you pull it out and then pop it? Can you push it in and then pop it? And it's a great practice for people to do for your eyeballs because it makes your head sharper too, your brain sharper. That was part of the brain therapy. Yeah, so cool.
Mm-hmm.
Again, clairvoyance, psychic perception is not always visual out here. I want to make that clear with people because like when I see things, if I see, let's just say I see a ghost. If I see a ghost, okay, in the room, I don't see the woo ghost sitting there. I see the ghost inside of my head in terms of, I know it's a female. I know she has a blue dress on. I know she has blonde hair. I know she's about 30. So I see it all in here.
Mm.
Okay. So sometimes our perception, especially with this third eye business, is all inside of our own seeing, inner seeing. So it's heightened, meaning clair, heightened sense of seeing, but it's also inner seeing or outer seeing. So this is important for us to understand. Sometimes I do both. Sometimes I get flashes of both, but it's very interesting to me that people always perceive that clairvoyance is out here and it's not.
No,
all the time.
No.
Right?
And for me, I sense something's there, but I don't see it in my head or outside of my head. I just know something's there. And I can close and I can sometimes see color, but not a form.
So you're claircognizant, which is actually the next chakra, but again, they overlap. So you're knowing, yours is a sense of knowing that it's the ghost is blah, 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 blah. Right. So yeah. And this is the eye where we can really train ourselves. It's important if you choose to train yourself psychically, it's important to play with that stuff, and I practiced and still do, oftentimes doing my best to see how I can check out the fields and can I change my eyes and can I pull something in? Can I merge with something? Can I be something's eyes like an eagle? There's lots of play in this chakra. And it sounds like a really serious chakra, but in terms of psychic sight, this is a playing chakra. And so even the clouds, when I sit up north, I sit there and ask, and I scan the skies for the clouds to see portals. And I will, move the clouds and play with it. Can I move the clouds? And so, are we moving the cloud or is the cloud moving? Who knows? Who cares? Right? These are all things that we can play with our mind telepathically with this chakra and have all kinds of super fun things happen. There's a lot of things we can practice with this kind of stuff. I can get, for example, I got this in the mail. And before I open it, I'm going to see what it is. You know what I mean? We can do a lot of these kinds of practicing.
Yeah. Or you can take your friend to a liquor store and have her hold bottles of wine to know if she really likes it or not with her eyes closed.
Yes.
Do you like this bottle with your eyes closed?
It's the best. Especially when everyone looks at you like, do you really think you need
I know. What are they doing?
Right?
Yeah.
All right. Now I want you to also think when you're doing this kind of training, if you really want to go bigger, oftentimes when I do a little exercise in psychic training class for this I will let somebody look at a whole bunch of stuff. And then they can only look at it for X amount of seconds. And then they have to run back and write it all down. Okay. What is important to be in this present world and really train ourselves to be here is also all of the little things. So someone would say, oh, you had a tea bag, a tea, whatever. Yeah. What kind of tea? Was it decaf? Was it regular? Was it lemon? Was it, what kind of tea? You had a pair of sunglasses. They just write sunglasses. Yeah, but what color were the sunglasses? And so when you're doing these kinds of things, it's like the true seeing goes way beyond what we experience daily. Like, oh, I just see that. There's my neighbor. I see it. But when you're starting to get psychically connected and really see, I can see things when my clients talk. I can see their whole vibration change. I can see their whole field change when I say one thing. So this is when we start to become really present in being a human being in this chakra also, because I can see their energy. It's not just I see them sitting there with a blue shirt on. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
This is really important.
Well, and it just reminds me of shower games, like a wedding shower or baby shower. I was terrible at that game. I'm like, wait, bring the tray back. What was that?
Oh yeah, that was a shower game.
It wasn't. Yeah, they played it in showers. And I dreaded it every time. But now I look at it differently because it's all about, how you go after it. how you actually focus in on the items. So,
and you can practice this stuff if you really want to bump up your game, being a telepath and being a seer and voyance. It is things that you can close your eyes and think of your first car, your favorite outfit in 8th grade, your first boyfriend, your, the teacher you hated. I mean, all of the classroom that drove you crazy. You can go in and practice this kind of thing. And you want to go as deep as you possibly can, going to, I want to see the texture, I want to see the color, I want to know the feel, so that you're starting to move into the hologram of the creation, because there's no time, which we're going to get to in a second. There's no time, but I can jump into a space and a place. This is what makes us, and we're going to get to remote viewers. This is what makes us be able to jump into a timescape that doesn't exist. So the way that you want to practice this stuff is like, oh, I remember my best friend's whole floor plan of her house. Oh, I remember when we would go to vacation, go to that one resort, and remember as much as you possibly can. And it's super fun if you have validators, meaning maybe there's siblings that remember that stuff too, that can go, oh yeah, I didn't remember that. That's amazing. How do you know that? So it's fun to collaborate on those kinds of things. So practicing in that regard can really get you to move into looking at things way bigger.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I was going through my head. It was funny, the things that were popping into my head as you were talking about going back, especially as a kid.
Yeah.
My favorite bell pants.
Or maxi and midi coats. Yeah. I wanted you to think of something else on how the brain and the mind works. And I think this is super interesting about this chakra also, because we think seeing again is just with our eyeballs and we're seeing something. Think about a grocery store. Our mind automatically is working with us. So if I go into a grocery store and I just got to run in and grab pasta, right? I know what general layout that pasta is going to be in, no matter what store it is, because that's what stores do, right? But our mind is already trained like that. The category, the mental image of where that will bring me, because I'm seeing the mental image of these other things that are categorized, etc. So I think that that's really interesting, because we'll cross-reference in our own brain, using the brain, but then we use the mind. So it's the circuitry that's so amazing in this particular chakra.
That's a really great way to look at it. I always think it's the brain.
Yeah.
I don't think that when you start really considering the mind versus the brain.
And think how crazy the mind is, because remember, this is a mental chakra and it connects to that mental field in the solar plexus with monkey mind too. Yeah. So when you're a monkey minder, you actually really want to stay present with how you're viewing and using your mind versus just your eyeballs.
Yes.
Does that make sense? That you're going down through the chakra channels to get back down to the crazy, bring it back up. You're playing this way on the chakra scale. Okay. To look at things, experience things differently. We want to learn how to look. We want to learn how to access. This brings us to really powerful stuff like Akashic records. I'm going to go access my soul. I'm going to go access something remotely. I'm going to go access something from a past life, future life, current life, concurrent life. I mean, this is when we start to be able to astral and we become very powerful. It's a big chakra.
It's a big chakra. And it's so fun though, when you start to experience some of these things differently. And there's no limit, like you think that, oh, all right, well, I can see colors now. Okay. That's not it. You got to keep going, just practicing and going, because there's so much.
And we don't understand how easy it is to navigate life when we have these skills. And I'm not saying I'm fabulous and wonderful by any means. That's not what I'm getting at here. But just this morning, I went to my chiropractor and I walked in and the office manager was sitting at the front desk for some reason. And I've known her for years and years. And I'm like, hey, Steph. And she's like, this is what her eyes look like. And I'm like, what's going on? And she goes, oh my God, I slipped on my floor last night because my shoes were wet and I smacked my head really bad. And I said, well, that was yesterday. And she's like, yeah. And I go, I think you probably have a concussion because you don't look right. And she's like, yeah, I don't feel right. She goes, I'm sick. I didn't sleep all night. I feel nauseous. I feel this, da, 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 da. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to run in and get adjusted. And then I'm going to just put you back in your body. And she's like, what? And I said, yeah. And she's like, okay. And all the girls are like at the front desk, like, what? And I threw her in an examination room. And, it took me literally like 6 minutes, not even 4 minutes, whatever. What happens is we bump ourselves out of our auric field when we have that kind of a situation. Yeah. And she was completely back in a matter of 4 minutes. Now, I'm not saying I'm so fabulous and wonderful, but she didn't have any idea what was going on because she's never had me work with her. Again, I'm a full telepath, which is only this chakra, right? And so I'm literally going into her body, seeing her body, merging with her body, and finding her soul that's outside of herself, all in my mind. Mm-hmm. And I'm doing it in a matter of minutes to put somebody back together again, which would have been suffering and sick for days. Oh, so yeah. We are powerful, powerful people. And I mean, everybody can do this stuff. I'm not special. I'm just trained. Mm-hmm. And so this is important for us to go, okay, my abilities to be a telepath, my abilities to merge that with my clairvoyance, my abilities to merge that with my empathness, and so on and so forth, can really change how we navigate our daily life. It's amazing. And it
is amazing. And I think I appreciate so much your healing capability around concussions. I have 2 family members.
Yeah.
It was crazy what they had for injuries. And it was like instant relief after you put their fields back together.
Yeah. And this one, I saw it. It was so fun because now I'm seeing my inner mind with my third eye, and I'm watching her body because I'm scanning, like you said, with my eyes closed. Yeah. I'm not even looking at her. I'm just doing it telepathically, but I envision her, and I envision her like you said, you see with your eyes closed to see the color. And I find her soul piece, and I'm watching it just merging. It was just freaking awesome. And so these are things that our mind are creating. The divine mind and the ego mind are 2 different things, by the way, also. Mm-hmm. So this is really, when we ask for validation, is this okay to do this? Am I all right to do this? Can I see this? I don't budge into people's minds and bodies when I'm in this field and I have these skills. This is respect and honor, of other people's spaces and places. I don't get to go, I've heard people online, for God's sakes, on these podcasts talking about, oh yeah, I just went remote viewed and I just went in here and here and here. And I'm like, do you even ask? I mean, do you even ask? So, there's some places that I don't think we need to ask because we know it's a nefarious agenda, but I mean, there's other things where there's some honor here, so.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's this is a toughie. So, okay. So, I wanted to talk just briefly because 5 and 6 kind of work a lot together. 5, 5th chakra, sound, is here. Experienced within the dimension of time, but not space. So sound is in time, but not space. We are able to transcend space, like a phone call across the country, for example, or a shooting a text or having an email. We transcend space, okay? But we don't transcend the time. Like I'm doing it here. I'm talking to you, but it just shot across, right? Did you get that? Okay. When we're coming to the 6th chakra, light or visual information is experienced in space rather than time. We're able to transcend time when we get to this. So this changes dramatically because eventually there just is the I am. The next one gets to the I am. So now we're starting to lose confines of things. We're able to transcend time. This is like, oh my God, I'm meditating and I feel like I was gone for 5 hours and I was gone for 2 minutes. Or I thought I was gone 2 minutes and I was gone 5 hours, right? We're transcending time. All right.
Yes.
We also transcend time all the time in really easy ways. We transcend time when we talk about memories.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. Activities, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I just finished that. Where was I?
Yeah, or we're transcending time all of a sudden too, because it's like, oh, okay, Saturday, I'm going to get you at 1 and you're going to do da. So we're transcending time that way as well and creating time by piecemealing it all. So these are really interesting chakras because consciousness creates the dimensions of time. We're the ones that are creating time.
True, because there is no time, right? Like this is a mind thing that is really tough to get. Oh my God.
I knew this one would frustrate you eventually because you're just like, this one.
I know.
I know. It's trippy.
It is.
So time is inseparably linked with change, because when something changes, then we notice it's different. Hence
Yes.
time. Okay. So we're forced into a realm of time because there's change, right?
Mm-hmm.
So our reluctance to flow with change locks us into time, because if we just do this, it's like I always think of mandala, the man, not the Mandela effect, but the African American man that was put in slavery for so many years.
I know who you're talking about.
Oh gosh. Okay.
It's
You
like,
know who
it's
I
not
mean.
mandala. It's like, what is it? Is it?
I always do mandala because it's the Mandela effect.
Yeah. Okay. Just let's stick with that.
Anyway, when you're in those situations and you have no equivalent to track time, there's no time, right? I mean, there is no time. So he would talk oftentimes that there was no time. He would be in prison for God knows how long, and it wasn't any big deal because there was no time. It didn't make anybody crazy because or it could make you completely crazy, right? I mean, there's all different options we can play with here when we really don't have time. It's weird. And we create the time in this chakra, right? So a dimension that allows us to tie things together, things experiencedness and singleness, it's this tied together with that. I'm going to go here and I'm going to end up there. I'm going to get in the car and go shopping. So we're creating the actual thing of time in this chakra.
And I think that would hold true with like working with your imagination and creativity. Like something comes out of that, right? Like you are imagining, using your imagination to create something, which then you all of a sudden it becomes a time thing because it's a goal or a action, right? Does that work?
Nelson
Mandela.
My brain is still in the back going, I know this guy's name, Nelson Mandela. So, all right. Thank you.
I was trying to think of his wife's name with all the shoes.
Yeah. Okay. But yes. So when you're doing imagination, you already are creating time and matter eventually also. Yeah. So, but what is so cool about chakra 6 is it transcends time, and we can work with transcending time. Mm-hmm. Me, as a psychic intuitive, I can take photographs and I can get 100% reads on people. And I mean, I've done it for years and years, and I'm really, really good at it. I can take a photograph and know all kinds of things about that person. If they're dead, if they're alive, it doesn't matter. I still get the information, right? Yep. Because I can go into the photograph, and yet the photograph is freezing time, but yet it's transcending time.
Yeah, just that point in time.
Right. But it also transcends time because I can look at it 40 years later, 2 days later, and I can transcend time. Yeah. So that's what's so, you're doing it again.
I know.
So I did a project one time too with paintings, and I was wondering if I would be able to read paintings as well, because paintings are really interesting when we come to the psychic, the third eye, the transcendence of time and space. It's all of it. Okay. So would I be able to see into the eyes of a portrait painted by somebody else's eyes as a perspective of that being? Would that be the same as capturing it on a photograph? That was my quandary. Are you following?
Was it though? Was it?
Absolutely.
Wow.
And I could find the difference of the perspective or the opinion of the painter on top of it.
That's so cool.
It was really cool.
Wow.
So memories, get frozen in our brain. We can release all these things by transcendence of time. We can play a lot with this chakra to do massive healing, right? Oh, yeah. I mean, this is a big deal.
Yeah. When you're talking about going back into your childhood, you know, and it's important.
This is when we can clear our records, we can clear lineage, we can clear trauma, we can clear everything. And there's a million modalities out there to assist with that stuff. But I would like people maybe to invite themselves that you're that powerful if you choose to be. Yeah. And, again, take what resonates on all this. But I think this is interesting because we create such limitations on our eyes and what we see and what's information and what's knowledge and what's the experience and what's the memory and what's the feeling. All of these chakras, oh my God, we create such limitations. And we get to this one and we're completely out of our body. I mean, we're just gone. So this is really cool things like, you know, time is going like this, or is it?
Right.
It isn't. And we kill ourselves over it, Kim.
We
I
do.
call it chasing the pen. When I do a client, like I said before, if I just get here, then everything will be okay. And people chase this
and then
time,
you
that dang pen rolls. And it rolls and it rolls and it rolls and it rolls and it rolls. If I just get married, if I just get the promotion, if I just lose 15 pounds, it is constantly because we think time is a one-way street, when in reality, A, there is no time, and for sure it's not one way. But we're killing ourselves because we're pushing that pen down the one-way street.
Right. And it's also perception of what I have to have or need to be, you know, from other people's view. Is it really from yourself and your heart of what you need or what you should be?
Well, we create everything around that. Let's go even farther and unleash that part of it. Think of people that lose people.
Yeah.
I just was with a client who's coming on the first anniversary of the mom's death or whatever, a parent, I think it was a mom. You know, now it's like, oh, the birthday. Oh, it's going to be Christmas. Oh, it's going to be, and we lock into this and we create our stories around this, and we lose our marbles over things like time because we equate it to events. And then we create that narrative and that story, and then it either like totally destroys us or raises us up. And the reality is none of it's really real. This is what cracks me up too. Oh my God, I can't go out of town. It's my husband's birthday. Well, who cares? But spend it on nothing. You know,
it doesn't have to be
a
that
different day together. Because it has to be on that day because that was the day that I was born. You know, I mean, those silly things that we do to ourselves, you know, I mean, it's just kind of odd to me that we're like, because without a clock and without time and without all this nonsense, our world will be completely different.
Completely different. And it is already different in so many ways with time. It's different now than it was for me because I've changed, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, all of a sudden it's like, what do you mean it's October? What happened? Like
or do this one. Do this one. How did 5 years go by? Oh my God. Oh, well, that was because of COVID. COVID took 3 years from us. And literally speaking, people have a big chunk of time because it is locked into a fear thing that they don't want to deal with, and they're scared might happen again. And so they're already projecting time and fear that isn't even real in the first place for the second and third, fourth time around. It's nuts.
Yeah,
I mean,
it is nuts.
We're crazy people. Right?
This needs to be, we need to have time as a whole nother podcast, because it's just, it's a mind blow.
Yeah, it is
hard to get around that one, I think.
Yeah, and we could, and I think what we could also do is go into timelines like we did on the Vibecast one time, because I know that was when everyone kept sending that little emoji that went like, you know. I'm going to remind you of one thing on time, which cracks me up. Do you remember how long it took to get somewhere when you were a kid? Because you were so excited, right?
Yeah.
And or same even as an adult, it took super long to get there, and then it was really fast to get back.
Right.
It's because of your anticipation, right?
Yes.
I mean, and you're so excited for something. Think of the time and the effort people put into wedding plans. And then the wedding's done in 4 hours, right? And I mean, these kinds of things are really crazy that we do to ourselves because it's subjective versus objective. Like, what are we doing? Is this even worth the effort that we're putting in? Is it really crazy? When your life is filled with absolutely everything and you're scheduled to the max, everything goes fast. Everything goes fast.
And you know what? I think that the problem with it though is you're thinking about the next thing. You're not enjoying the moment of what you're in that you already you were so excited to do, but you're in it and you're already thinking about that next thing you got to do because your schedule's so busy, and it's like leapfrogging through your calendar or through your time.
And the more present you become, the more your day slows down. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And then you can go really bonkers, like people that are really old, for example, and now I'm really old and I can't do anything and my day is just like molasses because I have nothing to do. So these can play with our brains so bad. And again, you know, we're exhausted all of the time because of time. Right? So too much free time too much empty space,
Yeah.
too much of not doing anything.
Yeah.
I don't have anything. Then you go bonkers too, because there's too much of it.
Yeah.
And so this is really about the balance. It's important for us to understand, free flow is great, but doing absolutely nothing starts to rot your brain away too, because it is a brain also, right? The mind is connected to the organ of the brain. So these are important balances for us. It's
Really important. And I think, people who are retiring, this is a really tough thing to learn. You go from working full time and, doing, it's like, how did I do everything before?
Yep.
Like, how did that happen? But you realize you weren't enjoying all the moments along the way because you were shoving everything in to get it done. But then that balance of just making sure you have enough to, keep everything flowing.
This is why, again, it's important to train and work with this particular chakra and look at things like photographs to regenerate things, regenerate fields, regenerate things, And I've done trauma release with photographs of my own self from certain ages of things, because you can stick yourself into that and refeel and redo and let go and re-narrate that whole thing. So we can do tons of work with no time, transcendence of time. We really can. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's nuts. So
yeah, we need to do another topic for sure.
I know. So I'm going to just show one more thing that is mind-boggling in this particular chakra. And this is the kind of work that I do. So I do what's called sacred geometry. So when we see geometry, this could be one, this could be one. These are Janosch cards, Janosh cards. These are spinning in the what we would call the grid patterns of the hologram to make reality, to make things, to change things, to delete things, to do whatever. This is the instruction set. And this is how the light comes together in this chakra with geometrics, platonic solids, and math, and starts to add in color and frequency and resonance, and it spins and it changes things, okay? So think of this running in the grid patterns of the hologram, okay? So then what a worker like me does is I go into, this is the circuitry of that same graphic. So I am a circuitry worker besides. So part of my third eye is working on this side and my brain is working on this side.
Oh my gosh.
So I go into the hologram with the spin factor, the colors, and the geometry, but then my Suzanne brain taps in and I use my own brain and I watch the circuitry and I bring it through and I change it. That's when I look really strange because I do this.
Yeah, you do. You move around a lot.
Yeah. So this is an example of the circuitry that will happen, okay, from the graphic that looks like that.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It is crazy. The color is so amazing.
And we can see the colors. The better we get at geometry, the more we're starting to see that geometry is a huge, that's another whole giant, I think a sequence we could do sometime too with sacred geometry, because it's everywhere. And geometry, sacred geometry, is used for designing things. It was, around forever. We've done this stuff for eons to design cities. Washington, D.C. is fascinating to study. All of the designs, the Fibonacci code, nature designs, all of these are all the same stuff with geometries. And so the Vitruvian Man, I mean, all of it is crazy fun to study. So these are things that we can, maybe move into for other ones, but I want to leave it at that for this one.
For sure.
I would like to jump in really quickly though, back to evolutionary time. I think what's so cool about, I taught this really deeply in a class once, about the chakra system itself overall goes through evolution as a whole species and a planet. So our species and our planet, evolutionary wise, was in the root chakra during the Stone Age. Okay. So our primary consciousness was concerned with survival. Oftentimes it was just me. I might care about my family, but I'm going to run away from that big mastodon right now, and I've got a club and I'm going to run, and it's all about food. It's very singular. Yeah. I'm mobile. I'm a nomad. I'm everywhere and anywhere and nowhere. It is very, very much about survival. And that is 100% as a culture, as a planetary existence, moving us through what we would consider the root chakra time period in evolution. Okay.
Yep.
Makes sense. Sacral chakra, number 2. This is the aspect of change. So this is when otherness starts to come into our life. We start to realize it isn't just me. There's something else or someone else. In time, we're starting to now go, oh, there's a past and there's a present and there's potentially a future. And so now we're starting to evolve into when agriculture was starting, families started to come together. We would go into the little towns and we were still kind of moving. Oftentimes we would nomad, but we would nomad together and we would have more clusters of people. So we're moving into that time period.
So it's
and
like having a
eventually,
tribe, like a
yeah,
tribe. Yeah.
and eventually the nomadness of this would lessen and lessen because these time periods are really long. So nomad, going, we've used the land, we got to move, we got to blah, blah, blah. Whereas then it turned into, we're going to be in the town and we use the land, but now we're going to recultivate the land and replant, right? So we move into that sense of community and that sense of relationship, okay? Then evolutionary wise, we started to move into the solar plexus. This is largely oriented towards future time, meaning that this is when we're going to do this because now we're in our ego power. We're going to create this. We're going to do this. This is what we're getting out of. There's also the Bronze Age in that other one. The Bronze and the Warring Age is kind of jumping between the sacral and the solar plexus. We're moving out of the solar plexus right now as an evolution in terms of the ascension process and moving into the heart chakra as an evolution. And eventually, hopefully we'll be landing in that 5th chakra as an evolved 5D, structure, but that's thousands of years from now. So it's interesting because we will move as a society and as everything together. I think what's really interesting is when we look at history from a metaphysical standpoint or a new age standpoint, it's almost like we've done this before again and again and again, right? We had the Mayans who understood the land and they were nomads, but then they really were connected. We had the connections to the galactics. We had, we were ascending. Technology was ascending. Everything was great. And then we blow ourselves up, So hopefully we're not doing that this time, right? I mean, maybe this time.
It's history is important. It's important to understand this because we keep repeating some of the same things that are not good for us.
Well, and what we really did wrong, if we want to use those words, was in the times of very advanced civilizations is when we started to really lose it in the throat chakra. We started to use communication tools instead of communicating. We started to make technology advanced. We started to lose that we were the technology and creating the technology. And this is the mess we're in again for another round because we already did that in Atlantis when we started to be gods and create everything ourselves, blah, blah, blah. So this is, it's just what we do. It's really kind of sad, right? And God forbid if we ever get up to the 6th and 7th chakras as as a society. It would be lovely, right?
Yeah.
So it's a lot. One of the things that I'm interested in and do some of, and I'm training myself right now and am looking to get better at is remote viewing. And I think that that's super interesting because we can place ourselves into spaces and places and we can garner a ton of information. And for those of anybody that are watching and knows the work that we've done at the Palmer House, we've done some exercises where we simply just give you a name and or an address, and the amount of information that comes through is phenomenal that people tap into. This is something that is fun to do. I did find an app online from Russell Targ, and he used to work with the government and still does. I don't know if he's still alive. I saw him years and years ago. He was one of the remote viewer trainers for, covert stuff and et cetera. But he has an app that's free that I've been playing around with on my phone. And it'll say, it'll show you something or it'll give you a description or whatever. And then you have to pick it eventually. Like you have to say yes or no. Does it have grass? Does it have water? Does it have a bridge? Is there any numbers? And you go, and then eventually they show you some pictures and you pick one,
Oh my gosh, that's cool.
It's actually really fun. And I think that that's something that if someone's interested in training themselves on, it's an app on remote viewing on Apple for free. And it's fun. And so those kinds of playing games are things that what you're looking for is distinct things, not on that app, but in real remote viewing. You're looking for distinct things. You're looking for, numbers, letters, terrain, and things like that. This has helped. I was privileged enough to be able to do some missing persons stuff with this quite a few years ago, and was really awesome to be able to help missing persons in that regard. And you're basically going out of body in a meditative experience and finding the information. And again, when it's something like that, you're not really budging into somebody's space because they're a missing person, right?
Yeah.
But we don't want to budge into the space of the lady sitting 2 rows up on the airplane. I mean, it's kind of, there's boundaries for ethics there, So it's important for us to know that telepathy can be very invasive. I used to practice telepathy by going into people's brains just for fun until I realized how unethical that was.
Well, yeah. Oh my God.
Well,
I can imagine. I'd be sitting at the airport going, "Oh,
that's what I would do." I'd sit because I traveled so much because I was corporate and I was always in the airport. So I would those guys that would throw the bags onto the airplane, I'd pick one and I'd burrow into his head and I kept telling him to stop and look up, and eventually he would. And then I'd laugh and I'm like, "Oh my God, I was a horrible person." So you don't really want to train yourself that way. I don't think that's fair. And now I very much know that was very unethical and not nice. But there are really fun things that you can do to be able to, do it differently and not budge into people's space.
Jeez, I can't imagine.
I know. You're going to look at the airport different next time.
Any place. I mean, think about, there's so many places. I would be really scared to know what's going on in there.
Well, and this brings you to, and we're not even going to get into it because it can go forever. It brings you into the whole AI and the programming thing in the realm of this realm. And so this is the realm that can be extremely dangerous. And so we'll do an AI one in the very near future, I'm sure, that can talk much more.
There's a lot around that. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Definitely.
All right. Did that all kind of make some sense to you?
This one was really
I told you it was a hard one.
It's a hard one. I know. And I knew going into it would be, but I mean, you went into some areas that I think we need to break out and maybe do a little more in depth. And even if we could provide an exercise or two of what you can do, because there's just so much.
Yep. It's a lot. I'm going to help before we leave with some of the practices from my book. So again, in the back of this book, all the chakras, all this information that we're sharing is in here. But some of the things that you can practice to calm yourself down or get better at is martial arts, yoga, physical disciplines that bypass the mind and bring the body into alignment. Yoga poses are child's pose, wide-legged forward fold, candle gazing. I do that a lot. I used to do that a lot, where I would just read the candle and watch the little nymphs fly off of it. That was super fun. Alternate nostril breathing is really good for this one too, because it can get you higher. The oils are sandalwood, rosemary, chamomile, and frankincense, and stones, amethyst, sodalite, lapis lazuli, purple fluorite, black obsidian. But like I said, this is all over the board. It's really up to you what you want.
Whatever feels good is my thing with that one.
And purple to dark blue to indigo. This is talking affirmation wise about being aligned to my higher guidance, holding wisdom, trusting intuition, and being one. At this point in time, what we're doing is we're rising from information and knowledge and getting into wisdom. So we talked extensively on the Vibe Tribe about that the other night, that we move through the chakras and we move through our existence when we start with information, which then moves into knowledge, which then moves into wisdom. And this is when we're getting to the wise one. Hence enlightenment, right?
I feel like a crone.
Yeah. Yeah, we're a crone. I used to hate that word. Now I'm kind of digging it though.
I'm fine with it.
Especially at Halloween. Who cares?
We've earned the badges for the crone, I think. So
that's right. That's right. All right. Well, any questions, or you think you got that?
I think this one I'll have to watch several times, because it's a lot of information, and it's just, there are concepts in there that are just not easy until you start to play with them and practice them and experience them.
Yep.
I think some of them that you talked about, I haven't really experienced in a way that you have. So it's harder to grasp, and that's okay. But I think that's all part of growth and learning how to, maneuver through this. So,
well, we're moving into the quantum realm is the problem. We're going from a physical realm down in those physical chakras. You go through that bridge the spiritual realm is basically holographic and quantum, and now we're multidimensional, and that is not what people are comfortable with. It took me the other way. I was comfortable out there, and it took me forever to even get into the physical self to be able to trust that. So, you know, a lot of the star seeds, they like to be up here. And this is another warning that I will give many, many people that are all spewing about, you know, the galactics, and we're doing all the star seeding, and we're out of body traveling and this, that, and the other thing. Again, please, if you choose, hoping you listen, get your root chakra in charge, get your, you know, get your feet on the ground, get planted, because when you are so completely open, it gets really tough if you don't know how to ground that stuff.
Plus you're a little more vulnerable. You know, you're not necessarily, when you're not grounded, your boundaries are not probably in the right place either for.
Well, and it's reminding ourselves that we signed up to be humans on a planet here. We didn't sign up to be, you know, floating around Mars and Jupiter right now. We are down here for a reason. So this is important for us.
Right? It is super important. Yes.
Soapbox at the end.
I know. There you are.
Yeah, that's okay. Well, hopefully, questions, ask them in the comments. We'll know what's going on. You've been commenting. We appreciate that. That's super awesome. And thank you for the likes and the shares. Keep talking about it out there if you choose, which we hope you do. And on behalf of both of us, we'll see you next time. Got one more in the chakra series, so we'll see you soon on that one. All right. Thanks, all. Cosmic hugs.
Bye.